Hi, welcome back to Game Room Crafts. I'm Kelly. This is my game room. Let's play. So today I'm trying something new. Surprise, surprise. Okay, I've been looking for a cost-effective alternative for my mix to mold because I don't know if you have noticed if you're a mix to mold user, but when you purchase mix to mold on Amazon or even at Michael's, even from the breweries company's website themselves, the price has like more than doubled since I first started using mixed mold a year ago. Current price, I believe, on Amazon is like $30 for a 5.5 pound bucket. So I started using Perfect Cast, which I purchased at Hobby Lobby for $7.49. This same bag on Amazon is, what did I say it was, kid? $15?
I don't know. I'm not sure what it was.
But it was more than double the price of what I get this 4-pound bag at Hobby Lobby for. So there's that. The difference is that it is a coarser grit and it's cream colored. When you cast it, it comes out. I'll show you a piece, well, the back of a piece. This is the back of a coaster that I just never did anything to, but that's the color you get, this kind of sand creamy color, which is fine. And if you're using a dye, it really shouldn't affect it if the dye is good. But I wanted to get one that the reason I liked my mixed mold is because it was pure white. I mean, pure white. So I was looking for an alternative. I still like my Perfect Cast. I will still use my Perfect Cast, but I wanted to find an alternative to the mixed mold. So what I found was the Kisrel casting powder. And they currently have it on special. Actually, they have it on special quite a bit because when I first found it, you got 2 1-kilogram bags. It was really cheap. And that's why I was like, wait, that's less than what I would pay for 2 bags of Perfect Cast. And you were like, ooh, but it was only on special for like a week. And when I went back, it was gone. So right now, currently, they have a 3-kilogram special. So you get 3 bags. 3 of these bags, you get some sticks, some gloves, some mixing cups, which always comes in good. It comes with its own scoop. And it is just like the mixed mold and like most of these casting powders, a 3-to-1 by weight. So if you do scales, great for you. I don't do scales because scales and I don't get along. The only time I use scales is when I'm doing silicone. And that's because I don't have a choice. So today I decided I'm going to try both Perfect Cast and the Kisrel resin casting powder and see what the difference is, if there's any difference. And I'm not casting it in plain color because that to me would have been a deciding factor anyway, but I'm casting them both in pink because then that way I have an actual, okay, this is an exact duplicate thing. But I'm going to read to you their instructions anyway. It says their resin casting powder is a new upgraded formula of gypsum powder, which has characteristics of safer, more delicate, and smoother surface of casting products, which I will say that when you use the Perfect Cast, the front of it that touches your mold is smooth as silk. When you flip it over, it's quite rough. Not rough, but you can feel texture to it.
Like,
which is not
slight grainy, maybe?
Very slightly grainy, which is different from the mixed mold because when you use mixed mold, that does not happen. So I'd like, this is something else we want to try. We'll see what happens. So then it says resin casting powder can be mixed and stirred by adding acrylic pigment, color essence, mica powder, glitter, gold leaf, etc. for artwork casting. The surface of the artwork can also be brushed with appropriate pigment after demolding, so you can paint it. It lends itself well to paint, as does the Perfect Cast and the mixed mold. So mixing and stirring, it says 3-to-1 by weight. So 100 grams of casting powder and 33 grams of water for mixing. Then it says tuning color or adding additives. After mixing your casting powder with water evenly, you can add pigment for color mixing. Then it can be poured into the mold. The mixing time is completed within 1 minute. Adding pigment mixing also needs to be completed within 1 minute. So you have 1 minute to get that all stirred up. Once it's declumpified and all that, you get 1 minute to get all stirred up before it starts to thicken up. It says, note, after mixing or mixing color, the casting powder liquid should not be left for more than 5 minutes before pouring into the mold. Otherwise, there will be precipitation and no liquidity. The recommended practice is to pour into the mold immediately after mixing or color mixing. Casting powder work time is 5 minutes. That is once the mixing is completed and pouring into the mold within 5 minutes. Otherwise, it does not have the ability to affect the curing. After pouring in the mold, you need to vibrate, shake, tap. You know how we do to get the gas to come up. Any bubbles will be released that way. Shake it, tap it, flick it, whatever. Demolding. After pouring into the mold, it can be demolded after 30 minutes and fully cured after 2 hours.
Wow.
Yeah. So it says, as each person makes something different, make sure it's fully cured before demolding to avoid damage or breakage. For highly encapsulated molds, so that would be like these, it is closed on 3 or 4 sides. Highly encapsulated molds, it is recommended that the mold be fully cured before demolding, so wait for the full 2 hours before you demold it, which is different from your perfect cast, because the perfect cast gives you, when you put in your water, you stir it gradually into smooth approximately 2 minutes. After mixing, top the mixing container, tap it on the table to bring the bubbles up to the surface, and then pour, but do not overfill your mold. Gently tapping the mold to release the air bubbles. Set for 45 minutes. Remove from the mold and then air dry for approximately 24 hours. Okay. I don't do that. After I demold it, I throw it in my food dehydrator and it sucks all that. Speed runs all the liquid out. So we are going to try this. So here I have 1 ounce of the Kisrel and here is 1 ounce of the Perfect Cast. And what we're going to do is we're going to do 1 drop of the pink resin-crete pigment in each. I'm going to get some water. Now, here's the deal. Because my molds, it's a teddy bear, by the way, and they're identical. Well, are they identical?
Not quite. There are slight differences, but they're the same size at least. So.
Same size. They came together as a set. I think one is supposed to be a girl and one is supposed to be a boy.
Something like that.
Like one is wearing a sweater, the other is wearing a dress or something. Anyway, they're textured. They have lines and a face. And so, well, we're going to see how much water we need because I want it a little more liquidy than thick because of the texture. So we're going to, and I use a fork to mix. I just find it's easier to get out all the lumps and to scrape my sides and bottom that way because the tines kind of bend rather than a stick, which is straight up and down. And I'm going down in that groove on the bottom to get any dry powder out. You don't want any dry powder in here. Now, I will say this about the Kisrel. It is very, very light, powdery. It's like the difference between working with cornstarch or working with flour. You know, like I would say Perfect Cast is like working with unsifted flour. This is a little bit, I added a little bit too much water, so I'm putting a little bit more powder in. Perfect Cast is like working with unsifted flour. Kisrel is more like working with cornstarch. In fact, this kind of looks like a slurry. I don't know, kid. This seems way too liquidy. I think I put too much water in.
Uh-oh.
That's the thing about not using the scale.
Yeah.
But I can't use the scale. I just can't. By the way, this cup is like way big. It does have measurements on it though. It's it goes from 10 to 60. Well, 60 if your cup is full, like packed like brown sugar.
Which I don't think is
It's not what you're going for, no. Okay. Oh, that's much better. Much, much, much better. And we're gonna do 1 drop of the pink. Give it a good shake. This pink is very bright, by the way. 1 drop. There we go. See how bright that was? I'm thinking these bears actually would lend itself well to like a nursery or just, somebody who collects bears like me. You have not seen my house. There are bears everywhere. Glass bears, crystal bears, mixed mold bears, Pooh bears, stuffies. I even have phone charm bears. Okay, so using the bear on the K paper, I'm going to, and if you're going to get bubbles in your ears and under your chin is where you're going to get them. Perfs. Yippee! You know what I didn't do coming up? I squished it, but I didn't tap it. You can do that. Tap your table. Hopefully any bubbles will be released that way. Because I filled it too much to, well, no, okay, that's good. If I hold on to it and tap it at the same time, it kind of gives it a shimmy and a shake. Okay. Okay, then I wipe off my fork because, oh, something's in there. Second verse, similar to the first. This time we're using our Perfect Cast. Same amount of powder. This is roughly the same amount of water, but I'm gonna hold back a little bit because since I had to add powder to the other one. Because like I said, there is a difference in the consistency of the Kisrel versus the Perfect Cast. Down in that lip on the bottom. Dear cup manufacturers, please make a measuring cup that is plastic that does not have a little divot on the bottom. Thank you, me.
You think it would be so easy to find those by now?
But it's not though.
I know.
And make sure it has all the measurements on it by halves. Like I want the 0.5 from 0.5 all the way up to whatever the top number is, 8, 9, 10. But I want it by halves because it makes it easier that way. Okay, again, 1 drop. Okay, close that up before I spill it, because I'll spill it. And I'm getting that mixed in really well. And I will say this, to me, that is not as pink as what the Kisrel looks like. But I'm looking at the Kisrel and I see the pink in the center and white on the outside, which is weird, right? It should have taken all of that pink. I mixed it in really well. Yeah, that's well, we said we were going to do them exactly the same. So 1 drop of color each. That's what we got. Okay, and then this goes in. Okay, and I will say this is my fault because I made the other one more liquidy. So there was actually a total more mix in the Kisrel than there was in the Perfect Cast, which is why the Perfect Cast bear is not all the way full. And the other bear is just slightly over. But that's okay. That was my fault. That's user error. Again, you would avoid that issue if you're using scales. I have that issue because I don't use scales. Okay. And so because we did these in a, what they say, encapsulated mold, I'm also going to try making this flower and this flower here. I'm going to make a little bit of each and finish up those flowers and see what the difference is, because this one is open, totally open, versus these are more encapsulated. And then when they're all dried up, because this one takes, what did I say, 30 minutes. But it actually takes 2 hours because it's encapsulated. So since we're giving that one 2 hours, we'll give this one 2 hours also, but I don't believe it will take 2 hours. But since we want to try and do them exactly the same, I'll wait. I'll wait the 2 hours. Take them out and we'll see where we are from there. And I will bring you back, see what we got. Okay? See you in a minute. And we're back. And these are done. They have been on a trip through the food dehydrator. So they're done. So I'm going to take out, this is the Perfect Cast bear. Let's see how she be. Now, because she was still in the mold, she will have to go back in the dehydrator or leave her until tomorrow because you can feel the moisture up on the top, but she has come out whole. And this is the Kisrel bear. I have a little, like, I over poured it. So I'm going to scrape that off before I pull it down because I don't want it to fall into my mold. The next time I use it, there's no contamination. Pull that back and she slides out. Again, she has come out whole. She will have to go back into the dehydrator. Now, first impressions. I'm looking at this and we use the same amount of color in both. You see much more pink in the Kisrel than you do in the Perfect Cast. In fact, I can really not see any of the pink in the Perfect Cast. I can see it on the bottom, but I don't see it on the top of her. And this may be me, but it's uneven in the Kisrel, and it's probably because I didn't mix it well. I thought I did, but I may have to do that again. Now, these are these encapsulated molds because they were closed on 3 sides, quite tall. So I will have to put these back in the dehydrator and see what happens. Now, these were open faced. So this one is, again, the Perfect Cast. We'll start with the little one. Yeah, and I don't see much color in there at all. I see it on the top of this one, or the back, what will be the back side of this one. And you flip it over and it's kind of there, more there than in the bear. But it's not really the pink that I was going for. And I used the same amount here that I did here. And you can see just from it sitting there that it's much more pink here. And this is the Kisrel. A little bit of extra fell over. Obviously more pink on the back than it is on the front, but it is more pink, even more pink than the Perfect Cast. And then the big flower, which is the exact same flower. Yeah, same amount of dye, same amount of powder, same amount of water, and the Kisrel held that color a little better. So I'm going to say this: if you're going to use pigments, or in this case, I use the J. Diction pigment for the Resin-Crete. In this particular case, with that particular dye, the Kisrel held the color better and took the color better than the Perfect Cast in all across the board, flower and bare. So there's that. And the same amount of dye, same amount of everything. So I would say that the Kisrel held that better than the Perfect Cast did. However, if you're going for something that is automatic, already going to be a creamy color, like I used it in a skull and I thought, wow, it was perfect for making the skull because I wasn't dyeing it. So it was perfect. I think that the Perfect Cast in that case was the right call. So, I mean, really, depending on what you're using it for, whether you're dyeing it or not, if you're dyeing it, I would say with a very little amount. Now, understand, I only did 1 drop of dye in each. I could have done more and I would have gotten the color that I wanted. But I wanted to see evenly what would happen. But yeah, if you're going to be painting it, I don't think it matters. If you're going to be leaving it plain and you want a creamy color, Perfect Cast is the way to go price-wise. Because it would take 2 Perfect Casts to equal 1 set, this set that I bought, and it would still cost less. That's if you're buying it through, I'm going to say if you're buying it through Hobby Lobby. If you're buying it through Amazon, for some odd reason, Perfect Cast is more than twice the cost at Amazon than it is at Hobby Lobby. Same thing with the mix to mold, by the way. More than twice the cost at Amazon than it is on Hobby Lobby. So there's that. Kisrel has a really good deal going on right now. I will link it in the description box below. That's at Amazon. So yeah, there's my take on my search for something to replace my mix to mold because the cost is becoming astronomically high. So yeah, there's my take. I would say that yes, the Kisrel works well. It's I mean, that's pretty solid. And these haven't even been sealed yet. That's also a good point. When you seal these, the colors will pop more. So there's that. They're not completely dry yet, so I can't go ahead and seal them. But yeah, that worked for me to try and figure out, was it worth it? For me, buying it once to see if it's worth it, yes. Buying a whole bunch of it, maybe not. But actually now that I've tried it, I will go back to using it again because cost-wise and as far as how it takes the color and all of that, I'm going to give Kisrel a thumbs up. And Perfect Cast, it does work. It just, it would take a little bit more dye, I think, to get the color that you want because you're not starting out with a pure white powder. You are starting out with a pure white powder with the Kisrel. Okay. Thank you for joining us here in the game room. I had fun trying something new and learning something from that little experiment we just did. Come join us again next week. I'm not really sure what we're doing, but whatever it is, we will endeavor to make it fun. In the meantime, don't forget to play. See you soon. Bye.